Good day. It's December 22, 2025. It's 2 days to Christmas and 9 days left in the year 2025. I'm Maribel Villanueva. Welcome to The Pulse.
And I'm Jessica Rolla. Welcome to this week's News Roundup.
As the merry season is on and families around the U.S. and the world prepare for the happiest season of the year, there are also bad news that can happen after the end of the year. Such as bad news could come to more than 20 million Americans that will be affected by a sudden huge increase in health insurance premiums if Congress will not extend the premium cost subsidies under the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. Americans who purchase private health insurance in the government-sponsored healthcare insurance marketplace will be harmed financially if the federal government, by an act of Congress, will not extend subsidy for their health insurance policies. The increase is estimated between 26% to 78%, depending on the policy. House Republicans under the leadership of Speaker Mike Johnson came up with a bill on health care that does not include subsidy, but Democrats in the House of Representatives, supported by a handful of Republicans House members, came up with enough signatories for a discharge petition, which can allow a shortcut process bypassing the Speaker of the House to put an Affordable Care Act solution that can extend subsidy on health insurance premium on the floor for a vote. The discharge resolution, if passed on the House with 218 votes, is enough to send the bill to the Senate for a vote. But a similar bill to extend Obamacare subsidy has now 16 Republican co-sponsors. But with 53 to 47 Republican majority in the Senate, the resolution will need the support of at least 4 Republican senators to join the Democrats to approve the bill. 3 Republicans voting with Democrats will not be enough because Vice President J.D. Vance will be the tiebreaker vote. That is why 4 Republicans are needed to join the Democrats to vote on the bill, if ever it made it through the House favorably. The final question is, if it passes the House and the Senate, will the president sign it or veto it? One Republican congressman expressed that ignoring the constituents on this issue of extending the subsidy will be Republicans' own chopping block in the midterm election, where they already anticipate a blue wave that could give back the control of the House to Democrats. We will be watching what happens in the next 7 days and update you in the next edition of The Pulse.
Texas State House Representative James Talarico, a Democrat, had officially announced last week that he is running for the U.S. Senate to challenge the incumbent Republican Senator John Cornyn. Talarico, a rising star in the Democratic Party as a minority leader in the State House of Representatives in Texas, who led his colleagues in the Democratic Party to leave the state of Texas to break the quorum, when Governor Greg Abbott called for a special session for congressional redistricting in Texas, as ordered by President Trump. Such redistricting that has now been granted by the U.S. Supreme Court for temporary use in the 2026 midterm election, pending appeals process by opponents, was designed to gerrymander an already politically gerrymandered state, which could render to the Republicans a 5 more seat advantage by taking it away from Democrats. Democrats and other voting rights groups earlier gained a favorable decision from a panel of 3 federal judges in Texas. But the governor elevated it to the Supreme Court on an urgent shadow docket. The Supreme Court, led by Justice Samuel Alito, writing for the majority, which is the conservative wing of the Supreme Court, allowed the new racially gerrymandered map to be used in the 2026 election. James Talarico has been polling higher in favorability among those potential candidates from the Democratic side. However, after the announcement by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett that she is also running for the seat of Senator John Cornyn, the Republican incumbent, last week's polling shows Jasmine Crockett slightly ahead of Talarico, with 51 to 43 in favor of Crockett. The Democratic primary for Texas Senate race is now starting to get crowded.
With the war on redistricting congressional maps in many parts of the country continue, state lawmakers in Indiana rejected Trump's proposal to gerrymander the congressional maps throughout the state. 21 Republican state senators joined 10 Democrats on a 31 to 19 votes in blocking the redrawn map, which also did not get any support from the state's Republican lawmakers. States like Texas have gotten full authority by the Supreme Court to redraw the map which will favor the Republicans, while the GOP in California have led a lawsuit against Democrats in the lawfully redrawn map, which favors Democrats. The map redraw was a retaliation for what Texas did, except that Governor Newsom followed the state constitutional process by sending the plan in a statewide referendum that approved the plan. California's state Supreme Court sided with the state legislature in a lawsuit filed by Republicans saying the process was lawfully and constitutional. In Utah, the court ruled that the Republican-led redrawn map was unlawful and in favor of a Democratic seat. In Ohio, the state lawmakers on both sides struck a deal that will make 2 congressional districts held by Democrats to be redrawn and make it more Republican-friendly or lean Republican. Those districts are presently held by Democratic House members Greg Lenzman of District 1 and Marcy Kaptur of District 9. The third subject of the redrawn map is District 13, held by Democrat Amelia Sykes to be solid Democrat.
Agents of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, have arrested a middle-aged Minnesota woman in Minneapolis while observing the ICE operations. 55-year-old woman Sue Tincher was arrested while filming ICE operations, according to a local independent news, Snopes. ICE, in a Homeland Security email sent back to Snopes, stated that Susan Tincher was arrested after she assaulted a federal agent, tried to break through a security perimeter set up for public safety, ignored lawful commands, and became violent. Some observers were contesting the ICE accounts. Meanwhile, also in Minnesota, Fox 9 of Minneapolis has covered several stories on many ICE operations throughout Minneapolis, like, example, when ICE made arrests in protests in Chanhassen during a standoff with protesters in Minneapolis-St. Paul area while conducting an arrest on Tuesday last week, and ICE agents got swarmed by 60 to 70 protesters in Carmel Mall on Monday last week. Also, Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has made a statement that ICE agents pulled over her son while driving and was later released without further incident after showing his U.S. passport.
Is the U.S. penny getting discontinued? We have gotten phone calls from people asking questions if the United States 1-cent coins, the despised penny, will no longer be valid or used. So we're making this short segment to inform our viewers and their friends that the 1-cent coins, pennies, will still be in circulation and will continue to be validly transacted as part of the daily commerce, meaning you can still pay in pennies and can get your change in pennies if you're owed $1.87 as change to your $10 or $20 bill you tendered at a store. In short, the penny is not being demonetized. It will still be used, but what the U.S. Treasury announced is that they will stop minting or making the pennies in 2026. Why? Because it is now costing the government 3.78 cents to produce a 1-cent coin, whose monetary value is more than 1/3 below the cost of actually making the coin. So what's going to happen? For one, you may experience stores having difficulty in giving you pennies on your change. But in reality, there are millions of pennies that are not being circulated by Americans. Yes, you and me. Likely 6 in every 10 homes are hoarding their pennies in jars, mugs, cookie tin cans, plastic ice cream containers, ashtrays, etc. Millions in pennies not being circulated. People empty their pocket when they get home and dump coins in those containers next to where they put their keys. Circulation came to a halt for those pennies that the U.S. government had spent more to make the coin. So this is how we can all help out starting next year. 1, you can put those pennies in coin roll wrappers and turn it in at the bank for cash bills. 2, you can use those Coinstar machines at Walmart and other locations and cash it in. Put those money in your wallet instead of resting it in the jar. Coinstar will charge you about 4% fee for their machines. 3, get into the habit of having coins, including pennies, handy when you're going to the store and will be paying cash. If most of us do this, perhaps the U.S. government would not have to mint pennies for the next 5 to 8 years. Many of you out there have been hoarding those pennies for 10 years. I happen to be one of them. We're going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned for more.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt is facing scrutiny from ICE critics after her in-laws was detained by ICE. Her sister-in-law, Carolyn Ferreira, has been making waves of news interviews on CNN and MSNBC with her lawyer after her son was detained by ICE. And others believe because of her influence that the White House intervened for his release, while many others get detained and deported without relatives not knowing what happened to their loved ones until news surfaced about them already in another country outside the U.S.
In the Philippines, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, the former Philippine National Police head, is missing from the Senate since November 11, 2025, more than a month since he disappeared from the public. After the rumors surfaced and from information given by fugitive press secretary of former President Rodrigo Duterte, who is facing crimes against humanity charges at The Hague in Netherlands, Harry Roque said he told Senator Bato de la Rosa that there is already an ICC arrest warrant against him, and the Philippines Justice Department did not deny or confirm its existence to the media, and soon after, the rumor was a topic in the media. The senator disappeared from public view. The Philippine National Police, in a statement to the media, said that they know where the senator is, as they have been monitoring him, and that he is still in the Philippines, that he travels and changing places of stay and changing cars when traveling. Senator Bato de la Rosa is eyed by the ICC as co-defendant in crimes against humanity, being the chief enforcer in the former President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs, where more than 12,000 drug users and peddlers were killed without seeing a day in court. The ICC also sees that the senator was chief of police in Davao City, where Rodrigo Duterte was mayor, when extrajudicial killings started happening in that city. Davao is an hour airline flight south of Manila. Former President Duterte was arrested in Manila earlier this year by officials of the Philippine National Police because of an ICC warrant, and the Philippines was responding to an Interpol request for his arrest. The Philippine government under President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos complied with the request because the Philippines is a member of the Interpol Accord. As of last week, the ICC has not publicly announced the existence of the warrant of arrest, just as the arrest warrant on Duterte was announced shortly before he landed at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, returning from a trip to Hong Kong.
The Trump administration Department of Justice has been pestering states to provide the U.S. Justice Department with a list of voters in each state, including driver's license or state ID numbers, address, and social security numbers. Such trove of private information is sacredly protected by privacy laws already in the books and is not given easily to any government agency or any private entities. These information is not considered public. What can be public, available upon request for lawful reasons, are the state driver's license and ID and the person's address, but not including social security number. Election officials like the Secretary of State has been mandated by the state laws to protect these information from being accessed by any other government agency or entity. That is why 18 states is fighting off Trump's Justice Department from getting their hands on these information. The DOJ, by way of their Civil Rights Division, has been asking for the voter list since early months of Trump's presidency. Other states had bowed down to the demand and pressure of the White House, mostly among Republican-led states. But 18 other states are responding to the DOJ's lawsuit in federal courts. Among U.S. 4 states that the Trump's DOJ had sued last week to obtain those voter lists were Massachusetts, Colorado, Hawaii, and Nevada. Nevada's Secretary of State Francisco Aguilar pushed back and will be fighting in court to defend the private information of Nevadans who registered to vote. The Secretary of State said the Trump administration wants voter lists from all states to intimidate them and use the information for their advantage in the 2026 election cycle. Here are the things Cisco Aguilar said in response.
This is not a normal request. This is not normal regulation. This is information that is very personal to Nevadans. The information we're trying to protect of Nevada voters are the driver's license number and the last four of Social Security's. My job is to follow Nevada law, and when it conflicts with federal law, it's up to a judge to determine what I'm required to do. I look forward to the day in court when we get to present our case, when we get to argue the actual law, and maybe educate the federal government on states' rights.
This is in response to the recent Department of Justice lawsuit against Nevada. Nevada is now the 18th state to be sued by the Justice Department, and they have released a full statement and have released the full lawsuit, which you could find on our website, 2news.com, or you can download our free 2 News Nevada app.
No other government agency would casually obtain every information about an American citizen. It's already protected by privacy laws, including HIPAA.
Councilman Mark Polito of Cerritos, California, a Filipino American, was in Las Vegas last week to meet with members of the PhilAm and AAPI community to muster support for his run for the California State Assembly in next year's election. A fundraiser event for Mark Polito was hosted by Nevada Assemblywoman Erica Mosca, who was first Filipina to be elected to the Nevada Assembly and is now on her second term in office, and by Gloria Kawile of the National Federation of Filipino American Associations, or NAFA, one of the top political organizers in Las Vegas in the PhilAm and AAPI and AANHPI community. The event was attended by Nevada State Attorney General Aaron Ford and Nevada University Regent Aaron Bautista, who is also a PhilAm. We're going to take a break. Please stay with us for the world news when we come back.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. In Africa, from a BBC report, a rebel leader in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo says his fighters will withdraw from a vital city at the request of the United States. Corneille Nangaa' statement came days after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that the takeover of Uvira City by rebel forces broke a peace pact and that the U.S. will take action to ensure promises made to the president are kept. Nangaa stated that rebel fighters will leave the city as a trust-building measure. The United States accuses Rwanda of supporting the insurgents. Rwanda rejects the allegations, but its president, Paul Kagame, signed a peace pact with his DR Congo counterpart, Felix Tshisekedi, on December 4th at a ceremony hosted by Trump in Washington. The U.S. president praised the agreement as historic and a great day for Africa. The rebels did not sign it, but have been participating in a rival peace process headed by Qatar, a U.S. ally with significant relations to Rwanda. Nanga is the coordinator for the Alliance Fleuve Congo, AFC, a rebel coalition. It includes the M23, the most formidable force that European countries, including the United States, claim is sponsored by Rwanda. The Democratic Republic of Congo's army is aided by troops from nearby Burundi. The M23 gang conquest of Virus City in South Kivu province was a significant blow to them, given the city is only 27 kilometers, 17 miles, from Burundi's economic capital, Bujumbura, on the northern tip of Lake Tanganyika. AFC M23 forces will unilaterally withdraw its forces from the city of Avira as requested by the U.S. mediation, Nanga said in a statement, adding that this was done to provide the Qatar-brokered peace process the best chance of success. He did not specify when the pullout would occur, but did ask for the deployment of a neutral force to oversee a truce and prevent the DR Congo's army from reclaiming control of lost territory. According to the United Nations, over 200,000 people have fled their homes in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo since the latest round of conflict began earlier this month. At least 74 individuals, largely civilians, had been killed, and 83 more had been brought to the hospital wounded. Eastern DR Congo has been embroiled in conflict for more than 30 years, with many peace initiatives that have failed to put an end to the bloodshed. The Trump administration believes that its peace initiative will succeed and allow U.S. corporations to increase their investments in the resource-rich region. In 2023, the U.S. State Department projected that the Democratic Republic of the Congo had mineral reserves of 25 trillion. This included cobalt, copper, lithium, manganese, and tantalum, which are used to produce electronic components for computers, electric vehicles, mobile phones, wind turbines, and military hardware. The rebels made a huge offensive earlier this year when they grabbed Goma, the capital of North Kivu province on the Rwandan border. South African forces were deployed at the time to assist the DR Congo army, but they were forced to evacuate after the M23 took control of the city in January. The rebels quickly conquered the next major city in eastern DR Congo, Bukavu, the capital of South Kivu province. The attack on Avira, the government's last major stronghold in South Kivu, came after the rebels breached the defense lines of the DR Congo army, allied militias, and Burundian forces. The onslaught began a few days before Kagame and Tshisekedi headed to Washington to ratify an accord reached in June.
Al Jazeera reported that a Palestinian newborn froze to death in the Gaza Strip, according to local authorities, as Israel continues to limit the entry of shelter supplies and other humanitarian help into the enclave despite the terrible winter circumstances. The Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza confirmed on Tuesday that Mohammed Khalil Abu al-Khair, a 2-week-old baby, died the day before after seeking treatment for acute hypothermia caused by Gaza's intense weather. Al Jazeera's Tariq Abu Azoum reported from Gaza City that the child's death occurred as basic protections in Gaza were systematically dismantled as a result of Israel's genocidal war on Palestinians in the area. Families are living in tents on wet grounds without heating, electricity, or sufficient clothing, according to Abu Azoum. When food, fuel, shelter, and aid are banned, cold absolutely becomes lethal. Israel's 2-year war has destroyed more than 80% of Gaza's infrastructure, forcing hundreds of thousands of residents to seek refuge in fragile tents or overcrowded improvised shelters. A massive storm recently struck the Strip, killing at least 11 people as torrential rains and fierce winds swamped tents and caused damaged buildings to collapse. We tried to dry the children's clothes over the fire, a displaced Palestinian mother, Mohammed Asaliya, told Al Jazeera from Gaza City. There are no extra clothing for them. I'm exhausted. We were provided a tent that could not endure cold temperatures. We need blankets, she explained. Hamas has blasted Israel's numerous violations of ceasefire agreement that went into effect in October. According to the latest numbers from the Enclave's Health Ministry, Israel's attack on Gaza have killed at least 393 Palestinians and injured 1,074 others since the first full day of the ceasefire on October 11. On Saturday, the Israeli military murdered Raed Saad, a top Hamas leader, in a targeted hit on a vehicle in western Gaza City, putting extra strain on the fragile truce. On Tuesday, Hamas leader Ghazi Hamad accused Israel of manipulating the terms of the U.S.-mediated accord. We want to be quite clear. The ceasefire agreement is straightforward, precise, and unequivocal. However, it is clear that the Israeli occupation has corrupted the wording by distorting and violating every single provision, Hamad stated. Hamas has fully complied with the agreement and met its obligations since the beginning. In contrast, Israel has intentionally committed multiple systematic and pre-planned violations. My heart goes to the innocents, women and children, who suffers the most in war zones. I can only hope things will get better for them, especially during this harsh winter. I hope the world will see the suffering and continue to speak out.
We will leave it at that, as we are out of time for this broadcast. I'm Jessica Carolla. Please join us again next week, and thank you for watching.
And I'm Maribel Villanueva. Have a Merry Christmas and God bless your week.